Всем привет! Welcome back to another episode of the Vodka Vodcast with me, Cutter Klein. This is the Czar Experience, and today I have a very special guest, a good friend of mine, Matt Artisan, from the YouTube channel, The Attractive Man, and we're going to be getting into a little bit the differences between communicating with girls, dating girls here in Ukraine. I'm speaking to you from Langeron in Odessa, on the shores of the Black Sea, and the other countries that Matt has traveled to across the world. So let's get into today's video. This is the Vodka Vodcast. Episode, I think we're in episode 11.
Czar Experience.
So Matt, tell us, I think you should probably introduce yourself a little bit. You have a YouTube channel, you give lots of advice for guys about, dating when they travel in different countries across the world. You have a lot of great videos on YouTube. I'm going to link his channel below, of course, in the description, also in the show notes on the podcast version if you're listening to this on the audio. So maybe tell everybody who's out there who's watching the Czar Experience today about your channel and where you've been traveling to. And you did a great video actually about, I think it was called, where it's the best places to meet girls across the
top 10 countries for meeting beautiful women.
Yeah, that was a really great video. I'll link that one below as well.
Yeah, I spent, basically since 2012, I've been a digital nomad. I've been literally just living mostly out of a suitcase. Well, for 4 years, I lived strictly out of a suitcase, just traveling sometimes every week, sometimes every few weeks to different countries. And I still travel quite a bit. I've been to about 78 countries. We've done workshops, dating, pickup workshops in 43 countries now. So as you can imagine, most of the countries I've been to, I've been meeting women there. Whether it's during the daytime, just walking around, going to bars and clubs, a little bit on Tinder and stuff like that. And just, enjoying and learning about the culture.
Very good. So, I think some of the countries you mentioned were in that video were Philippines, Colombia, obviously here in Ukraine, maybe also in Russia, I think as well was in there.
Yep.
Of those countries, what do you think are the main differences and similarities in terms of like the dating culture?
Well, as far as the dating culture, there's some countries that are a little bit more conservative, a little bit more reserved. The girl typically won't go back with a guy on a first date. One-night stands are less common in most, if not all, of Eastern Europe, maybe the Baltics. I don't know. You know more about the Baltics. I haven't spent that much time. That might not be the case. But
I don't actually think it is the case.
Yeah,
in my personal experience.
Yeah.
Go Baltics.
I've had a good time in the Baltics, so. But in most of Eastern Europe, yeah, it's a little bit slower dating process versus Southeast Asia or most of the Western world, United Kingdom, Germany, USA, Australia, Canada, etc., where, one-night stands are a little bit more common.
All right, so I think that dispels a little bit of a myth about Eastern Europe. I don't like to use the word easy refer to women, but I think that's what a lot of people would say. And there's a perception maybe that, guys come from the West here and all these girls are just waiting to open their legs for them or something like that. But that's absolutely the opposite in reality, in my experience, and that's been yours.
Yeah, I agree. And I had that same kind of idea, misconception?
Yeah.
I had that same kind of idea coming here thinking that, higher value, in general, Westerners make a lot more money than Ukrainians. Thinking like, they're going to see a foreigner as like, wow, but it's not really the case. Don't come here really expecting that. Also, don't come here expecting, if you're coming here for a week, don't expect to get a bunch of one-night stands if you're coming out. Even if you're going out every night, it's just not going to happen. You got to spend some time here. I'd say at least put in a month. And by that time, by the end of the month, you're probably going to be dating a few girls, or at least maybe one that you're dating consistently, and you're probably not going to want to leave at that point.
That's a great advertisement for traveling here, for sure. Actually, I met a Belgian guy, Sven, last week, and he had some great quotes because he had a similar experience. He'd come for 3 weeks, almost a month, and he said the first week was a disaster for him because he didn't understand the culture, he doesn't speak Russian, and he said that if guys who come here expecting like girls to throw themselves at them, local girls to throw themselves at them because they're from the West, will leave with their ego on the floor, basically, because that's not how things work. You have to invest the time. You have to get to know the girls here a lot more than I think is common in Western Europe or in North America, and that's definitely the opposite of maybe a lot of you guys have as an impression before you come here. So just bear that in mind. So you've come here as you're American Canadian, right? You're North American.
Yeah.
How have you found it? Because you don't speak Russian, for example. How have you found your experience here in Odessa in summertime?
I mean, it's a great city. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of things to do. Tons of beautiful women in really every city, every big city in Ukraine. So yeah, if you're looking for beautiful women, this is definitely the place to come. I mean, I think there's a reason mail order brides are from Ukraine and Russia. Typically, it's a great because they're beautiful and they're more traditional. You know, you're not going to find a bunch of slutty, you know, Ukrainian girls running around here. For some people, you know, that's what they want.
Yeah.
Other people, they want a long-term relationship or a wife. So I think this is a great place to find somebody like that. Same with Moldova, in my experience, Belarus. You know, much more traditional culture, much more family-oriented than Western culture, which is maybe more focused on work, career. So if that's what you're looking for, then definitely come out here, check it out. Try a few different countries in Eastern Europe.
And how have you found the reaction to you being American and not speaking Russian? What has been the general reaction when you approach girls? Because you approach a lot of girls on the street during the day as opposed to clubs.
Yeah, and sometimes I speak a little bit of Russian. I know enough Russian that I can at least like approach a girl in a daytime situation. Это будет звучать неожиданно. Я думаю, ты выглядишь очаровательно. You know, and that usually gets a good reaction. I'd say it's about 50-50 as far as whether they speak very fluent English or not. They either like 50% of the time they're like no English. Other 50% they speak pretty good English. And yeah, I get good reactions. It's pretty much the same as just about anywhere else.
Okay.
I haven't found the reactions particularly way better than some other countries or also way worse. I didn't really get any blowouts. Yeah, some women wouldn't stop when I approached them. Mostly because I had a camera in my hand, I think, and maybe they weren't into that. But yeah, I mean, if you come here and you're genuine and you approach women with confidence, you'll get women to stop. They'll have a conversation with you. You'll get some instant dates, and you'll have a good time. Yeah. It's not necessarily like way better than other places. Like, don't come here maybe from the U.S. thinking, oh, you're gonna get way better reactions than U.S. women.
It's going to be probably
about the same.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised about the camera point because my impression is that actually having a camera is a big advantage in Ukraine. Certainly when I walk around with my camera, it's really great.
Well, you have a much nicer camera.
Maybe that's part of it.
I'm using a cell phone.
Yeah, I think if you're going to come with a camera, come with a big camera.
Yeah, it's much better. It's basically like running up to a girl with your phone and showing her that you're filming is what I'm doing.
Okay.
And I even got a few, F-offs. Not in Ukraine. Actually, this happened in Sweden. They just were not into it at all.
Well, I think that's a big difference between, say, Western Europe and Eastern Europe. In general, Eastern Europeans are a lot more enthusiastic to be on camera. That's actually why I get so much great B-roll, actually, the footage that you see with girls who are my friends, or maybe they're just acquaintances, is because in general they actually enjoy being on camera, which makes a big difference. So what you found is like you were mainly approaching girls during the day here, and overall it was pretty much neutral compared to other countries. It wasn't any better, wasn't any worse, kind of somewhere in the middle in terms of the reaction.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, about the same reaction. As far as the nighttime, I didn't do a lot of going out this trip, but I have gone out, of course, to clubs in Eastern Europe, and we were just talking about this, and I found it a little bit harder. It all depends on the venue. If you go to like a really loud nightclub, which is typically what they have in my experience in most of Eastern Europe, it's going to be really difficult. They're not going to want to talk. So you're yelling in their ear, and it's painful. So if you're going to go out at night to meet women, definitely find some bars where it's not too loud. And that's just generally good advice.
Yeah, I think that applies anywhere.
Yeah.
If you want to have a conversation. Of course, meeting girls in clubs is a different dynamic. I don't think you need to be particularly intellectual and have a very deep conversation. It's more about the feeling and the vibe, normally spiked by alcohol. girls here know how to drink, by the way. I don't think you're going to come here and drink girls under the table. Even as an Irish guy born in Ireland, that's going to be a tough proposition to outdrink Ukrainians.
And they don't drink as much vodka as you think. Maybe the guys do, but the women don't really, in my experience, like vodka all that much.
No, actually, it's seen as more a provincial drink, I think, today, and it's not seen as very high class to drink vodka. So actually, most girls would like to drink whiskey or rum or some imported alcohol, or champagne. Champagne is always popular.
Yep.
French champagne.
That's true.
Yeah, lots of Moët Chandon, and you're
Stock up on champagne when you get here.
So in terms of, did you find
to
that?
keep this on?
Yeah, keep it on for a little bit longer, and then we have two views. How did you find not speaking Russian? Did it make much difference to your trip personally?
It definitely helps. I think in any country, if you know a little bit of the language, it definitely helps no matter where you go. And you can learn at least a few simple words no matter where you go. Of course, like the basics: hello, thank you, goodbye. But also beautiful. Although the word beautiful in English, every girl in every country knows that word.
Of course.
But it's a little bit more charming, I think, if you know how to say beautiful in their language. And if you're going to be here long enough, or in any country, learn, at least the basics as far as like, hey, I just saw you and I thought you looked very beautiful. I wanted to say hi. Hi, my name is. And then maybe tell me something about you. Just learn that, a few sentences. It'll go a long way. It'll be a lot more helpful, because some women, I definitely had some women when I walked up to them and said, hey, do you speak English? They'd say no and start walking, and I'd say, wait, eto vuja, and start speaking Russian, and then a lot of times they would stop.
So you think it's actually an advantage to be able to open the conversation in Russian as opposed to 100% depending on English?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely can help.
I would say in general, being able to speak Russian makes a huge difference here. English language skills, by the way, if you're not familiar with this region, are ranked some of the lowest in the world, basically about the same level as China. Maybe you've traveled to China as well, but these are the rankings, so don't come here and expect that you're going to be able to speak to everybody in English, even if they're young. A lot of girls aren't very comfortable in English, and actually a lot of them don't like tourists very much, because it's a very touristic city. So if you open in English, they've probably been opened like 20 times that day, maybe even if they're hanging out by a beach or at a club or something, with some guy saying, hey, do you speak English? And that's really just not going to make you stand out in particular, endear them to you. So at least be able to open in Russian and say 2 or 3 things, even if you have to switch to English afterwards. I think it will make a lot better impression. So kind of to wrap up, how would you place coming here as an experience as a foreign guy from the West who kind of has his shit together, but is relying on using English? And I mean, I know your shtick in your videos is actually walking around meet girls during the day. Where would you place it compared to your other favorite countries for meeting beautiful women? Like you have Colombia there, you have Philippines. I know you're about to fly off to the Philippines right now. Actually, it's been a few months. You can see the weather has changed actually. This is like early September, and it went from summer to almost late fall. It's almost winter in the space of a week, and he's going to be in the beautiful sunshine of the Philippines.
It's hot.
Yeah, it's going to be hot in several levels when he gets to the Philippines. Where would you place it in terms of like how you feel after your experience here, like for the last week or so in Odessa?
Well, like you can see in the video, 10 best places to meet beautiful women. I ranked it #1. And there's a few reasons for that I like it #1 is because, of course, they're beautiful. You can compare the beauty to Russia. I think Russia might be like slightly better. Yeah. You see a little bit more beautiful women walking around.
In Moscow and the big cities, or do you mean just overall?
St. Petersburg, Novosibirsk. I've been to some small cities, it's not that good. But yeah, Moscow too is very good.
I think things get concentrated in Russia. I think the girls come from the smaller towns.
Yeah, I'm gonna check out some smaller
rich guy
towns maybe next summer there, and maybe in Ukraine too. So it's almost the same. I mean, it's a lot cheaper here, so the dollar or whatever your currency is probably gonna go pretty far here, which I think makes just the whole experience a lot more enjoyable. Because instead of having a $50 dinner, you have a $20 dinner. When you're on a date.
Your money goes a lot further, so you can do more while you're here, as opposed to if you have to budget in another country. So you still
Plus, you don't need a visa here if you're coming from U.S. or Western Europe. Most places, you don't need a visa.
It's 90 days visa-free every 180 days. So basically 3 months out of 6, you can stay here completely visa-free, whilst in Russia, I have a video about it, I'll link it, but basically you're going to have to get a visa. That's the summary of the video. And Belarus, of course, has become better. It's going easier. Now it's 30 days visa free. It was only
Is it?
5 days. Yeah, 30 days visa free for the last month.
For Americans too?
Yeah, for Americans.
Really? Interesting.
There, see, he didn't even know that because
see, I learned something all the
Lukashenko.
time.
You know what? President Lukashenko changes the law every time I bitch and moan in my videos about Belarus. Like it's more than a coincidence. It's like twice.
Thank you. We'll just
yeah.
we'll
So
just
all
say
you guys
it's
should be
because of
thanking
you.
me. Let me just complain after my next trip and see if we get the same.
Maybe they
reaction.
make all their political decisions based on your channel.
That would be amazing. But there is a backstory to that about how actually they do watch my channel, and it wasn't in my favor. I was actually banned from Belarus for a year because of one of my videos. So I know that you're watching in the KGB in Belarus, but at least
We'll link to that video down below.
Exactly. What Connor? The video got Connor banned from Belarus for 1 year. So you still see it as the number one place to meet beautiful women. Ukraine as a country, maybe not necessarily Odessa, but as a country, still.
Well, again, it depends on what you're looking for. So, I mean, that video I made was very, subjective, of course, and it all depends on what you're looking for. But yeah, if you're looking for high quality and especially relationship type material, I think Ukraine is high up there for sure. The other one in that video was Moldova, but it's just kind of boring there. There's not much going on.
Yeah, I think that's also an important point. A lot of the comments I get on the channel like, oh, you're just in Ukraine because they're beautiful girls. There are beautiful girls in lots of countries in this region. So there's a combination of factors. I'm going to make a separate video about this, why I chose Ukraine to spend the most time in. But it's like, as he said, visa-free 90 days every 180. It's cheaper here. Also, I speak Russian, so for me it's always cool to hang out in a place where actually I already speak the language pretty well. I know the official language here is Ukrainian. I go to Lviv. I've learned Ukrainian before I get trolled by an army of Ukrainian language troll bots.
It happened to me too in Lviv. When I was speaking Russian, somebody got mad at me and said, "You don't speak Russian here. You speak Ukrainian." I'm like, whoa, I don't know any Ukrainian. Teach me.
In Lviv, to be clear, I do speak in Ukrainian, but here in Odessa, the normal language to speak in is in Russian. And I actually find the political situation really, really interesting because I study international relations and actually specialize in the former Soviet Union. And of course, there are beautiful women. But as Matt just said, like Moldova, unfortunately, these days is not very exciting. So that's a reason why I wouldn't recommend spending 3 months in Moldova, but I would recommend spending 3 months here in the summer. So that's something also to factor in when you're planning your holidays. It's not only about where the beautiful girls are, it's also about the overall experience. And this city, Odessa, is my favorite for spending summer, as you probably noticed from the last 2 summers where I spent it here. I think we'll wrap it up with that. Matt, do you have anything you want to add to the video? Any advice for
come visit, come check it out. Also check out Lviv. I love Lviv. It's one of my favorite cities. Kyiv is great too, just not in my top 10. But Lviv, Odessa, I mean, you got the beautiful sea right here. You can't beat that.
All right, so I guess with that, go check out Matt's channel. I'm going to link that below. Go check out his video. The one where we've been talking about where the 10 best countries to meet beautiful women, I think is the name of it. If you're not a subscriber, what are you waiting for? Squeeze the red.
Subscribe.
Yeah, exactly. And whack the notification bell. But probably if you watch this podcast, you're probably already a subscriber and already hit the notification because you actually watch this special format where I go into more detail and give you a little bit more of the backstory and just stories in general and special interviews with guys like Matt. He has a huge audience. He gives a lot of great relationship advice. He's also traveled around this region a bit and done a little bit of like street style videos where he's approaching girls. You can see what it's really like. Also check out his Instagram. I'll link that as well. We should put that up on the screen now. He does some live streams actually where he's actually talking to girls.
Yeah, I actually did a live stream for the first time here where I'm just holding this and talking to the camera and trying to approach girls, and the first 2 just walked by, and then the third or fourth one, Insta-date, so it went well.
So you can see cool. In real time what it's actually like to walk around in a city like this or wherever Matt is, because he's going to be in the Philippines. So go check out all that good stuff. I will see all your smiling, enthusiastic faces for traveling in Eastern Europe in the next episode of the podcast. Until then, take care, have a good evening, good morning, good afternoon wherever you are, and do svidaniya, do pobachenia from Odessa, Ukraine. Ciao.
Peace.
SAR Experience.